So what do you think is going on right now with the Raiders? You mentioned Max, and we have so much to talk about in this and not that much time, but let's start right there.
Personnel moves. Listen, we didn't have titles. There were no titles in the building when I played there. And you know this because you certainly were in the building and, had a significant title. And I don't even know, I'm not sure I knew you were the president or whatever. To me, it was Ron Wolf was just a guy upstairs. Ron Wolf turned out to be the architect of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers team that, was, Leroy Selman, et cetera, Doug Williams, the whole thing. And then obviously with us and then 2-3 Super Bowls with us and then goes to Green Bay and resurrects that franchise. And he's in the Hall of Fame, see him every year. And you look around what we had, particularly in that really, good stretch run there from early 80s to, late 80s. There was greatness everywhere. And, nobody had a title, but you realize how important that personnel element is. And, whether it was Al, it was Ron Wolf, we had a number of people in the building who were tasked with trying to find talent. That's been a problem to me. That's been an issue. And I think when you don't hit on the quarterback, listen, Jim Plunkett took the Lewis and Clark route to get to the Raiders, and he's drafted number 1 by the then Boston or New England Patriots. I'm not sure if they were in New England at that point, and took a beating, a major beating, a traumatizing beating. And then he goes out to San Francisco, and that's where he went to school, and he's from out that way. And again, a bad team, and took another beating. And everyone had pretty much written off Jim Plunkett. And, there's a lot of stories like that in our locker room. There was a nice kind of blend of young and old. I lived with Cedric Hardman my rookie year in Oakland, in Alameda, in a little house down there. And he was 34 years old San Francisco player. And we had a lot of that in our organization where the older guy would take care of the young guy. And it was my job, whether it's Sean Jones or it's, Chester McLaughlin or whoever it was, to kind of take them under your arm and say, hey, look, this is what it means. And the guys that did that for me were Ted Hendricks, Art Shell, Gene Upshaw. And, like I said, everywhere you look, Freddie Biletnikoff's on the staff, Willie Brown's on the staff. You don't have to look far to see greatness. And Al was somebody who knew more about football or as much as any coach in football. So it was such a unique organization. And I don't think you really realize that because we were kind of an island unto ourselves. It was kind of a bubble and no one got in the bubble. And that was great from a player standpoint. But you never saw how anyone else did it. And we've been chasing that for quite some time now. And, we got close when, Rich Gannon was there. Rich Gannon was, to me, the last guy that, we've had there. And when you got to hit that position, you've got to hit in the offensive line. You've got a running back who last year, I think, led the league in rushing. And this year they can't run the football. They've got a young guy in kind of number 2 or number 3 slot that I think they like. But you have to ask yourself the question. And Jim played big in the biggest of games. He always did. Do you have a guy on that roster that can win a Super Bowl? And I think the answer to that question is no. And until you have that to start with as a foundation, you can kind of go back and look at the history and lean on that. But at some point, you got to make your own history. And this team and this organization needs to kind of get it dialed in and figure out how they can make their own way.
Check out new episodes of What the Football with Suzy Shuster and Amy Trask every Tuesday. Watch us on the Rich Eisen Show YouTube page or follow and listen wherever you get your podcasts.